Question 1. An auditor is examining the energy performance data analysis process at a large industrial complex adhering to ISO 50001-2018. The complex has collected detailed energy consumption data for electricity, steam, and chilled water over the past 2 years, alongside production output metrics and ambient temperature readings. While the organization has identified several periods of increased energy intensity relative to their established baseline, their analysis primarily consists of reporting these variances without a deep dive into the root causes or the correlation with specific operational changes or external factors. Which of the following approaches would best enable the auditor to assess the adequacy of the organization's energy performance data analysis in accordance with ISO 50001-2018 requirements? Option A. Evaluate whether the analyzed data is being systematically used to understand the drivers of energy performance variations and to identify potential improvement opportunities. Option B. Assess the frequency of data analysis meetings held by the energy management team and review the minutes for discussions on energy-saving initiatives. Option C. Verify the accuracy and completeness of the raw energy consumption data collected against utility bills and meter readings. Option D. Confirm that the organization has established at least 3 significant energy performance indicators, NPI, relevant to their operations. Correct answer is A. Evaluate whether the analyzed data is being systematically used to understand the drivers of energy performance variations and to identify potential improvement opportunities. Explanation. During an audit of a manufacturing facility that recently implemented an ISO 50001-2018 energy management system, an auditor is reviewing the organization's energy performance data collection and analysis processes. The facility uses a mix of manual and automated data logging for various energy sources, including electricity, natural gas, and compressed air. The auditor notes that while baseline energy performance indicators, NPI, have been established, the analysis of subsequent data appears to be primarily focused on identifying deviations from the baseline, without a systematic approach to correlating these deviations with operational changes or external factors. ISO 50001-2018, specifically in Clause 6.4.2, requires organizations to establish a process for collecting relevant data for energy performance and the consumption of energy sources. Clause 6.5.1 further emphasizes the need for analysis of energy performance and the implementation of energy review findings. A robust analysis should not only identify trends and anomalies, but also provide insights into the drivers of energy consumption and the effectiveness of implemented energy-saving measures. This involves comparing current performance against the baseline, considering relevant variables, and understanding the impact of operational adjustments, environmental conditions, and production output. The goal is to derive actionable intelligence that informs continuous improvement. Therefore, the most effective approach for the auditor to assess the adequacy of the data analysis would be to evaluate whether the organization is actively using the analyzed data to understand the causes of energy performance changes and to identify opportunities for further improvement, rather than just reporting on the changes themselves. This aligns with the Plan Do Check Act (PDCA) cycle inherent in the standard, where analysis check should lead to actions act. Question 2. When auditing an organization's energy management system for conformity with ISO 50001-2018, an auditor is assessing the effectiveness of the actions taken to address risks and opportunities identified in relation to energy performance. Which of the following audit findings would indicate the most robust implementation of Clause 6.1 and 6.1.2? Option A. A set of corrective actions taken in response to energy-related nonconformities, presented as the primary method for addressing identified risks. Option B. Evidence of a documented process for identifying, assessing, and prioritizing energy-related risks and opportunities, with clear linkages to specific operational controls and performance improvement initiatives. Option C. A comprehensive list of potential energy-saving opportunities and associated cost-benefit analyses, without explicit demonstration of how these are integrated into day-to-day operations. Option D. Records of management discussions about energy risks and opportunities during review meetings, but no documented action plans or assigned responsibilities for mitigation. The correct answer is B. evidence of a documented process for identifying, assessing, and prioritizing energy-related risks and opportunities, with clear linkages to specific operational controls and performance improvement initiatives. Explanation: the ISO 50001-2018 standard, specifically Clause 6. 1. Mandates that an organization shall determine the risks and opportunities related to its energy performance, energy management system, and the achievement of its energy objectives. This involves considering the context of the organization, the needs and expectations of interested parties, and the scope of the energy management system. The identified risks and opportunities must then inform the planning of actions to address them. Clause 6. 2 further elaborates on these actions, requiring the organization to plan how to integrate and implement these actions into its energy management system, and to evaluate their effectiveness. This planning process should consider existing processes, resources, and capabilities. The determination of risks and opportunities is not a static activity. It is an ongoing process that should be reviewed and updated. Therefore, the most effective approach for an auditor to verify compliance with these requirements is to examine how the organization has systematically identified, documented, and acted upon these risks and opportunities throughout its energy management system. This includes looking for evidence of the integration of these actions into operational planning, management review, and performance monitoring. The focus should be on the robustness of the process for managing risks and opportunities, rather than just the existence of a list. Question 3. When assessing an organization's energy management system for compliance with ISO 50001-2018, which of the following represents the most comprehensive approach an auditor should take to verify the organization's understanding of its context concerning energy performance? Option A. Examining the organization's financial statements to identify any significant energy-related expenditures and comparing them to industry benchmarks. Option B. Interviewing key personnel in the procurement department to understand their process for selecting energy-efficient equipment based on current market availability. Option C. Reviewing internal audit reports and management review minutes to confirm that identified external and internal issues affecting energy performance have been systematically analyzed and incorporated into the NMS planning. Option D. Observing the daily operations of the facility to identify any obvious energy wastage and documenting these observations as part of the context analysis. The correct answer is C. Reviewing internal audit reports and management review minutes to confirm that identified external and internal issues affecting energy performance have been systematically analyzed and incorporated into the NMS planning. Explanation: the core of understanding an organization's context, as per ISO 50001-2018 Clause 4. 1. Involves identifying external and internal issues relevant to the organization's purpose and its strategic direction concerning energy performance. This identification process should consider factors that can affect the organization's ability to achieve the intended outcomes of its energy management system, NMS. For an auditor, verifying the thoroughness and relevance of this context analysis is crucial. An auditor would look for evidence that the organization has considered a broad spectrum of influences. This includes regulatory frameworks, such as national energy efficiency mandates or local emission standards, which directly impact operational constraints and opportunities. Economic factors, like fluctuating energy prices or government incentives for renewable energy adoption, are also critical. Technological advancements in energy-efficient equipment or monitoring systems and socio-cultural aspects, such as public perception of energy consumption and corporate social responsibility, play a significant role. Furthermore, the organization's internal context, encompassing its governance structure, resources, capabilities, and contractual relationships with energy providers or major customers, must be understood. The effectiveness of the NMS is directly linked to how well these contextual factors are integrated into the planning and operation of the system. Therefore, an auditor's assessment should focus on the systematic identification and consideration of these diverse influences on energy performance. Question 4. During an audit of a manufacturing facility, an auditor is reviewing the organization's communication processes for its ISO 50001-2018 certified energy management system. The facility has multiple production lines, a central maintenance department, and an executive management team responsible for strategic direction. The auditor finds that while the energy policy is posted in common areas and shared via email. There is no documented procedure for how energy performance data from individual production lines is systematically communicated to the maintenance department for proactive issue identification, nor is there a clear mechanism for operational staff to provide feedback on potential energy-saving opportunities observed during daily activities. Which aspect of communication, as required by ISO 50001-2018, is most likely to be found deficient in this scenario? Option A. Documenting all internal communications related to energy management, including meeting minutes and formal reports. Option B. Determining the frequency and methods for communicating the organization's energy objectives and targets to all relevant personnel. Option C. Establishing and maintaining communication channels that ensure relevant information is communicated to, from, and within the organization regarding its energy performance and NMS. Option D. Ensuring that external communications concerning the organization's energy performance are consistent with its established energy policy. The correct answer is C. Establishing and maintaining communication channels that ensure relevant information is communicated to, from, and within the organization regarding its energy performance and NMS. Explanation: ISO 50001-2018 Clause 7. 3. Awareness mandates that an organization shall ensure that persons working under its control are aware of the energy policy, significant energy uses, their contributions to the effectiveness of the energy management system, including the benefits of improved energy performance, and the implications of not conforming with the energy management system requirements. Clause 7. 4. Communication requires that the organization shall determine the need for internal and external communications relevant to the energy management system, including what, when, with whom, how, and who is responsible for communicating. Effective communication is crucial for the successful implementation and maintenance of an energy management system, NMS. It ensures that relevant information is shared appropriately, fostering understanding, engagement, and accountability across all levels of the organization. An auditor must verify that communication channels are established, maintained, and that the content of communications is accurate and relevant to the NMS objectives and performance. This includes ensuring that communication mechanisms facilitate feedback and address concerns related to energy performance and the NMS. The auditor's role is to confirm that the organization's communication processes support the NMS objectives and comply with the standards requirements, rather than dictating specific communication methods. The effectiveness of communication is judged by its ability to inform, engage, and influence behavior towards improved energy performance and conformity with the standard. Question 5. When auditing an organization's adherence to ISO 50001-2018, specifically regarding the establishment and communication of roles, responsibilities, and authorities for energy management, what is the primary focus for an auditor when reviewing the organizational structure and individual assignments? Option A. Verifying that specific individuals are formally designated with ultimate responsibility for the NMS, with clear lines of reporting and authority for decision-making related to energy performance improvements. Option B. Checking for the presence of an external consultant who is contractually obligated to manage the entire energy management system on behalf of the organization. Option C. Ensuring that the organization has a written policy explicitly stating that energy management is a secondary responsibility for all department heads. Option D. Confirming that all employees have received at least 1 hour of energy awareness training annually, regardless of their specific roles within the organization. The correct answer is A. Verifying that specific individuals are formally designated with ultimate responsibility for the NMS, with clear lines of reporting and authority for decision-making related to energy performance improvements. Explanation: ISO 50001-2018 Clause 5. 3. Organizational roles, responsibilities, and authorities mandates that top management ensure that responsibilities and authorities for relevant roles are assigned, communicated, and understood within the organization. This is crucial for the effective implementation and maintenance of the energy management system, NMS. An auditor must verify that these roles are clearly defined and that individuals understand their obligations regarding energy performance, the NMS, and compliance with legal and other requirements. This involves examining job descriptions, organizational charts, and internal communications. The auditor also needs to confirm that individuals assigned these roles possess the necessary competence and are empowered to carry out their duties, including reporting on energy performance and initiating actions for improvement. A key aspect is ensuring that the structure of the organization supports the NMS, and that there are no conflicting responsibilities that could hinder energy management efforts. The existence of a dedicated energy manager or a clearly designated individual with overall responsibility for the NMS is a common and effective practice, but the standard allows for flexibility in how these responsibilities are structured, as long as they are clearly defined and assigned. The auditor's role is to assess the adequacy and effectiveness of this organizational framework in supporting the NMS objectives and targets. Question 6. During an audit of a large industrial complex, an auditor is reviewing the energy management system's monitoring and measurement processes. The facility has established an energy performance indicator, NPI, for its primary assembly line as kilowatt-hours consumed per assembled unit. The established energy baseline for this NPI was derived from data collected over a specific 6-month period. Upon further investigation, the auditor notes that during this baseline period, the assembly line predominantly produced a single, high-volume product. However, the current operational reality involves a significantly more varied product mix, with different products exhibiting considerably different energy intensities per assembled unit due to varying process complexities and run times. The auditor needs to determine the most appropriate finding regarding the NPI and baseline in relation to ISO 50001/2018 requirements. Option A. NPI itself is flawed as it does not directly correlate to the total energy consumed by the assembly line, regardless of the baseline's accuracy. Option B. The auditor should recommend a change in the NPI to one that measures total energy consumption for the assembly line, as this is a more direct measure of energy performance. Option C. The baseline for the assembly line's NPI is inadequate because it does not account for the significant variations in product mix, potentially distorting energy performance evaluations. Option D. The organization has correctly implemented the NPI and baseline as per the standard, as long as the data used for the baseline was accurate for the period it represents. The correct answer is C. The baseline for the assembly line's NPI is inadequate because it does not account for the significant variations in product mix, potentially distorting energy performance evaluations. Explanation: the core principle being tested is the auditor's responsibility in verifying the effectiveness of an organization's energy performance indicators, NPI and baseline. ISO 50001/2018, specifically in Clause 6.5.2, requires organizations to establish, implement, and maintain procedures for monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. This includes the selection and use of appropriate NPIs and the establishment of energy baselines. An auditor must assess whether these NPIs and baselines are demonstrably linked to the organization's significant energy uses and operational controls, and whether they are reviewed and updated as necessary to reflect changes in energy performance or operational conditions. The scenario describes a situation where the primary NPI for a manufacturing facility's primary production line is based on energy consumed per unit of output. However, the auditor discovers that the baseline established for this NPI does not account for significant variations in product mix, which directly impacts energy intensity. This omission means the baseline is not representative of normal operating conditions, making trend analysis and performance evaluation unreliable. Therefore, the auditor's findings should focus on the inadequacy of the baseline in reflecting the actual operational context, which prevents accurate assessment of energy performance improvements or deteriorations. The baseline must accurately represent the energy performance during a defined period, considering relevant variables. If the product mix is a significant variable affecting energy consumption per unit, it must be incorporated into the baseline definition or addressed through statistical methods applied to the NPI. The auditor's role is to ensure the NPI and baseline are robust enough to provide meaningful insights into energy management. Question 7. When auditing an organization's energy management system, an auditor is examining the integration of energy performance into the planning for design and procurement of new energy-consuming assets. Which of the following actions by the auditor would most effectively verify the organization's compliance with the intent of ISO 50001/2018, Clause 6. 3. Regarding the incorporation of energy performance into design and procurement. Option A. Examining operational data from recently acquired equipment to identify any significant deviations from expected energy consumption patterns, indicating potential design or procurement flaws. Option B. Assessing whether the procured equipment meets minimum regulatory energy efficiency standards mandated by national legislation, without further investigation into superior performance options. Option C. Verifying that the initial purchase price of new equipment aligns with budgetary constraints, as this often correlates with overall operational efficiency. Option D. Reviewing procurement records and tender documents to ascertain if energy performance criteria and life cycle energy cost considerations were explicitly included in the evaluation and selection of new equipment. Correct answer is D. Reviewing procurement records and tender documents to ascertain if energy performance criteria and life cycle energy cost considerations were explicitly included in the evaluation and selection of new equipment. Explanation. The question probes the auditor's role in verifying the integration of energy performance considerations into the design and procurement of new energy-consuming equipment. ISO 50001, 2018, specifically in Clause 6.3, requires an organization to consider energy performance when designing new or modified facilities, equipment, systems, and processes. This includes planning for procurement. An auditor must assess whether the organization has established criteria for evaluating energy performance during the procurement of new equipment. This involves checking if the procurement process includes specifications that favor energy-efficient options, if energy performance is a factor in supplier selection, and if there are mechanisms to ensure that purchased equipment meets the intended energy performance levels. The auditor would look for evidence of energy performance criteria within tender documents, purchase orders, and supplier evaluation records. The other options represent less direct or incomplete aspects of this requirement. Focusing solely on operational data without pre-procurement evaluation misses a critical preventative step. Considering only the initial purchase price without life cycle energy costs ignores a key driver of energy performance. Evaluating only the conformity to existing standards without assessing the potential for exceeding those standards through better energy performance overlooks opportunities for improvement. Question 8. An ISO 50001, 2018 auditor has recently completed a successful audit of Veridian Dynamics energy management system. Subsequently, a former colleague, now employed by Lumina Tech, contacts the auditor requesting details about Veridian Dynamics energy performance indicators and operational strategies, stating it would help Lumina Tech improve their own energy efficiency. Which action best upholds the fundamental audit principle of confidentiality in this situation? Option A. Provide a general overview of common energy performance indicators used in the industry, without mentioning Veridian Dynamics specifically, to offer some assistance to the colleague. Option B. Share anonymized data points that are publicly available for similar industries, asserting that this does not violate confidentiality as it is not specific to Veridian Dynamics. Option C. Inform Lumina Tech that such information is proprietary and suggest they engage Veridian Dynamics directly to inquire about their practices, if Veridian Dynamics is willing to share. Option D. Politely decline the request, explaining that the information is confidential and cannot be shared without Veridian Dynamics' explicit consent, as per professional ethical obligations and audit agreements. The correct answer is D. Politely decline the request, explaining that the information is confidential and cannot be shared without Veridian Dynamics' explicit consent, as per professional ethical obligations and audit agreements. Explanation. The principle of confidentiality in auditing, as outlined in ISO 19011, 2018, is paramount. It dictates that an auditor must safeguard the information gained during an audit and not disclose it to any unauthorized party without explicit permission from the client, unless there is a legal or professional obligation to do so. This principle extends to the period after the audit engagement has concluded. In the given scenario, the auditor, having completed the audit of Veridian Dynamics, is approached by a former colleague at a different company, Lumina Tech, who is seeking insights into Veridian Dynamics energy performance indicators and operational strategies. Sharing this information, even in a general sense, without Veridian Dynamics' express consent would be a direct breach of confidentiality. The auditor's responsibility is to decline this request, explaining that the information is proprietary and protected by the audit agreement and professional ethics. This adherence to confidentiality builds trust and ensures the integrity of the auditing profession. The auditor's role is to provide an objective assessment of the energy management system, not to act as a consultant or information broker for other organizations using data obtained under audit privilege. Maintaining this boundary is crucial for the credibility of both the auditor and the auditing process. Question 9. During an audit of a manufacturing facility that has established an energy baseline and set specific energy performance targets for its primary production line, an auditor notes that while energy consumption data is collected and reported monthly, there is a lack of systematic analysis to identify the root causes of any deviations from the baseline, or to evaluate the effectiveness of implemented energy-saving measures against the established targets, which fundamental aspect of the energy management system, as outlined in ISO 50001-2018, is most critically underdeveloped in this scenario. Option A. The establishment of a comprehensive energy policy that aligns with legal requirements and organizational objectives. Option B. The development of a detailed energy review that identifies significant energy uses and their associated variables. Option C. The systematic evaluation of energy performance and the implementation of corrective actions for continual improvement. Option D. The accurate identification and documentation of all energy sources and consumption within the organization's scope. The correct answer is C. The systematic evaluation of energy performance and the implementation of corrective actions for continual improvement. Explanation. The core principle of energy management, as embedded within ISO 50001-2018, is the systematic approach to improving energy performance. This involves establishing an energy policy, setting objectives and targets, and implementing a plan to achieve them. The Plan-Do-Check Act (PDCA) cycle is the foundational framework for this continuous improvement. Within this cycle, the check phase is crucial for evaluating performance against established baselines and targets. This evaluation requires monitoring, measurement, analysis, and reporting of energy consumption and performance indicators, NPI. The ACT phase, then, involves taking actions to address any deviations from planned performance and to further improve the energy management system. Therefore, when an auditor observes that an organization has established a baseline and set targets, but has not adequately analyzed the energy performance data against these targets to identify opportunities for improvement or deviations, they are identifying a deficiency in the check and act phases of the PDCA cycle, specifically regarding the evaluation and corrective actions necessary for continuous improvement. The absence of a robust analysis to understand the drivers of energy consumption and identify variances from the baseline means that the organization is not effectively learning from its data or implementing necessary adjustments to its energy management system. This directly impacts the organization's ability to achieve its energy objectives and demonstrate continual improvement as required by the standard. The auditor's role is to verify that these processes are in place and functioning effectively. Question 10. An ISO 50001-2018 auditor, during a surveillance audit of a large manufacturing facility, discovers that the energy review process has consistently overlooked significant energy-consuming equipment installed in the last 2 years. This oversight has resulted in these new assets not being included in the baseline and operational controls, leading to a failure to meet a key energy performance indicator, NPI target. Furthermore, the organization operates under a national mandate requiring the submission of annual energy consumption reports, which are based on the data derived from the NMS. What is the auditor's primary responsibility concerning this finding in relation to potential legal implications? Option A. Ascertain if the NPI shortfall and the non-integrated equipment data could lead to a breach of national energy reporting regulations and advise the client on potential legal liabilities. Option B. Report the NMS nonconformity and assume that the organization's legal department will manage any potential regulatory breaches independently. Option C. Escalate the finding to a higher certification body immediately, irrespective of the potential for legal noncompliance, to ensure the integrity of the audit process. Option D. Focus solely on the NMS nonconformity and recommend corrective actions to integrate the new equipment into the energy review and baseline, without considering external regulatory impacts? The correct answer is A. Ascertain if the NPI shortfall and the non-integrated equipment data could lead to a breach of national energy reporting regulations, and advise the client on potential legal liabilities. Explanation: the auditor's responsibility extends beyond mere compliance checking to ensuring the effectiveness and continuous improvement of the energy management system, NMS. When an auditor identifies a significant nonconformity that directly impacts the organization's ability to achieve its energy objectives and targets, a critical step is to determine if this nonconformity also poses a risk to regulatory compliance. For instance, if the nonconformity relates to inaccurate energy data reporting required by national energy efficiency regulations, such as those mandated by the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, EP, in some jurisdictions or similar national frameworks, the auditor must assess the potential legal ramifications. This involves evaluating whether the flawed data could lead to penalties, fines, or other legal consequences for the organization. Therefore, the auditor's professional judgment is paramount in discerning the potential for legal repercussions stemming from systemic issues within the NMS. The auditor's role is to report findings that could lead to noncompliance with applicable laws and regulations, prompting the organization to take corrective action not only for NMS improvement, but also to avert legal issues. Question 11. During an audit of a manufacturing facility implementing ISO 50001, 2018, the auditor observes that a key energy performance indicator, NPI, for compressed air system efficiency has shown a sustained negative deviation from its established baseline over the past 2 quarters. The organization's energy management team has noted this trend, but has not yet initiated a formal investigation into its root causes. What is the auditor's primary objective in this specific situation? Option A: to assess the feasibility of implementing new energy-saving technologies to compensate for the observed decline in energy performance. Option B: to verify that the organization has initiated an investigation into the root causes of the NPI deviation and is implementing appropriate corrective actions to address the performance shortfall. Option C: to ensure the organization updates its energy baseline to reflect the new operational reality indicated by the sustained NPI deviation. Option D: to confirm that the organization has adjusted its operational controls for the compressed air system to mitigate the immediate impact of the deviation. The correct answer is B: to verify that the organization has initiated an investigation into the root causes of the NPI deviation and is implementing appropriate corrective actions to address the performance shortfall. Explanation: the core of ISO 50001, 2018's approach to energy performance improvement lies in the systematic review of energy performance indicators, NPI, and energy baselines. Clause 6. 2. Energy planning, and specifically Subclause 6. 2. 3. Energy baselines and energy performance indicators, mandates that an organization establishes an energy baseline against which it measures its energy performance. This baseline is a quantitative reference point for energy performance. Furthermore, the standard requires the establishment and review of NPIs to monitor and measure energy performance. When an organization identifies a significant deviation in energy performance, it must investigate the causes and implement corrective actions, as per Clause 10. 1. Nonconformity and corrective action. The question asks about the primary objective of an auditor when reviewing a significant deviation in energy performance that has been observed through NPI monitoring. The auditor's role is to verify that the organization has a robust system in place to identify, analyze, and address such deviations to ensure continuous improvement of energy performance. Therefore, the auditor must confirm that the organization has investigated the root causes of the deviation and implemented appropriate actions to rectify the situation and prevent recurrence, aligning with the principles of corrective action and continual improvement inherent in the standard. Other options, while potentially related to energy management, do not directly address the auditor's primary objective in this specific scenario of a detected performance deviation. For instance, simply updating the energy baseline or adjusting operational controls without investigating the root cause of the deviation would not fulfill the requirements of corrective action. Similarly, focusing solely on future energy efficiency projects without addressing the current performance shortfall would be an incomplete response from the organization's perspective, and thus not the auditor's primary focus for the detected deviation. Question 12. During an ISO 50001-2018 audit of a large manufacturing facility, an auditor reviews the NMS documentation. Which of the following documented elements is most critical for demonstrating the organization's systematic approach to managing energy performance and ensuring compliance with the standard's planning requirements? Option A. Records of all energy bills from the past 5 fiscal years, categorized by fuel type. Option B. A comprehensive list of all energy-related training attended by employees with attendance certificates. Option C. Documented methodology for identifying significant energy uses and criteria for their determination. Option D. A detailed breakdown of the organization's energy performance indicators, NPI, for each department. Correct answer is C. Documented methodology for identifying significant energy uses and criteria for their determination. Explanation. When auditing an energy management system, NMS, according to ISO 50001-2018, an auditor must verify that the organization has established and maintains documented information for its NMS. This includes, but is not limited to, the energy policy, objectives, targets, and the significant energy uses SU identified. Clause 6. 2. One of the standard requires the organization to establish objectives and plan to achieve them, which inherently necessitates documented targets and action plans. Clause 4. 6 of ISO 50001-2018 specifically addresses the control of documented information, stating that documented information required by the standard and by the organization's NMS shall be controlled. This control includes aspects like creation, updating, identification, format, media, review, and approval. Auditors look for evidence that the documented information is current, accurate, and accessible to those who need it. The process of identifying SEUs, Clause 6. 1. 2. Is a foundational element that drives energy performance improvement and must be clearly documented, including the methodology used for identification and the criteria for determining SEUs. Without this documented basis, it is difficult for the organization to demonstrate systematic management of its energy performance and for an auditor to confirm compliance with the standard's requirements for planning and operational control. The availability of documented procedures for managing energy-consuming equipment and processes, as well as records of energy reviews and performance monitoring, are also crucial pieces of evidence. The question focuses on the essential documented information that forms the backbone of a compliant NMS. Question 13. During an audit of a large manufacturing facility, an auditor reviews the organization's documented energy policy. The policy states a general commitment to improving energy efficiency and reducing environmental impact. However, upon further inquiry with operational staff, it becomes apparent that there is no clear understanding of how this policy translates into daily practices or specific departmental responsibilities related to energy consumption. The policy does not explicitly mention a commitment to fulfilling legal and other requirements related to energy, nor does it provide a framework for setting specific energy objectives. Considering the requirements of ISO 50001-2018, what is the most significant deficiency in the organization's energy policy? Option A. The policies focus on energy efficiency without addressing broader environmental impacts beyond energy consumption. Option B. Lack of specific commitments to fulfilling legal and other requirements and the absence of a framework for setting energy objectives and targets. Option C. The failure to communicate the policy to external interested parties, such as suppliers and customers. Option D. The policy's generality in stating a commitment to improving energy efficiency without providing quantitative targets. The correct answer is B. Lack of specific commitments to fulfilling legal and other requirements and the absence of a framework for setting energy objectives and targets. Explanation. The energy policy is a foundational element of an ISO 50001-2018 energy management system, NMS. Clause 4. 2. Energy policy mandates that top management establish an energy policy that is appropriate to the organization's purpose and context, provides a framework for setting energy objectives and targets, includes a commitment to continual improvement of energy performance, and includes a commitment to fulfilling legal and other requirements. Furthermore, the policy must be documented, communicated within the organization, and made available to interested parties. An effective energy policy serves as a guiding document for all energy-related activities and decisions. It demonstrates the organization's commitment to energy management and sets the tone for the entire NMS. Auditors will assess whether the established energy policy aligns with these requirements, reflecting genuine commitment and providing clear direction for energy performance improvement. This includes verifying that the policy is communicated and understood by personnel at all levels, and that it is reviewed and updated as necessary to remain relevant. Question 14. An auditor is reviewing an organization's energy management system, specifically focusing on the energy baseline and its associated energy performance indicators, NPI, as required by ISO 50001-2018. The organization has identified significant fluctuations in its production output and has recently implemented a new energy-efficient lighting system across its main manufacturing facility. The auditor needs to ascertain the robustness of the organization's approach to maintaining the relevance of its energy baseline and NPIs in light of these changes. Which of the following actions by the auditor would best demonstrate due diligence in assessing this aspect of the energy management system? Option A. Examine the detailed calculations for each NPI to ensure they are mathematically accurate according to the organization's stated methodology. Option B. Verify that the organization has a documented procedure for revising the energy baseline when significant operational or business factors affecting energy consumption change. Option C. Review the minutes of management review meetings to see if energy performance trends, unrelated to baseline adjustments, were discussed. Option D. Confirm that the energy baseline was established using the most recent available year's energy consumption data. The correct answer is B. Verify that the organization has a documented procedure for revising the energy baseline when significant operational or business factors affecting energy consumption change. Explanation. The fundamental purpose of establishing an energy baseline in ISO 50001-2018 is to provide a reference point against which energy performance can be measured and evaluated. Clause 6.4.2. Energy review requires the organization to establish an energy baseline. The energy baseline serves as a quantitative reference that is used to determine the extent of improvements in energy performance. It is established based on data from a specific period and should reflect the conditions under which energy was consumed. When significant changes occur in the operational or business factors that influence energy consumption, the energy baseline may need to be revised. This revision is crucial to ensure that the energy performance indicators, NPI, remain valid and accurately reflect changes in energy performance, rather than being distorted by external factors. Therefore, the most appropriate action for an auditor to verify when assessing the energy baseline and its relationship to NPIs is to confirm that the organization has a documented procedure for revising the baseline when relevant operational or business factors change. This ensures the integrity of the energy performance measurement system. Question 15. When auditing an organization's energy management system under ISO 50001-2018, an auditor observes that the energy performance indicators, NPI, for a key production line are showing increasing variability over the last quarter. The organization attributes this to minor fluctuations in raw material density, which they consider outside the scope of their direct control. However, the auditor suspects a deeper issue. Which statistical concept is most critical for the auditor to assess in this scenario to determine if the observed variability truly reflects uncontrollable external factors or potential internal systemic inefficiencies impacting energy performance? Option A. The correlation coefficient between NPIs and the number of operational shifts per day, assuming this is the primary driver of energy use. Option B. The calculation of simple percentage changes in energy consumption month over month to isolate the impact of raw material density. Option C. The application and interpretation of statistical process control, SPC, charts to identify out-of-control points and shifts in the mean or variance of the NPIs, independent of the stated cause. Option D. The use of time series forecasting models to predict future energy consumption based solely on past trends without considering external variables. The correct answer is C. The application and interpretation of statistical process control, SPC, charts to identify out-of-control points and shifts in the mean or variance of the NPIs, independent of the stated cause. Explanation. The core principle of statistical analysis in energy management particularly within the framework of ISO 50001-2018, is to establish a baseline and then monitor performance against it. This involves identifying relevant variables that influence energy consumption, such as production output, weather conditions, or operational hours. By analyzing historical data, an organization can develop a model that predicts expected energy use under various conditions. When actual energy consumption deviates significantly from the predicted values, it signals a potential issue that requires investigation. This investigation could reveal opportunities for improvement, identify equipment malfunctions, or highlight deviations from planned operational parameters. The standard emphasizes the use of data to understand and manage energy performance, and statistical methods are crucial tools for this. The goal is not just to measure energy use, but to understand the asterisk driver's asterisk of that use and to quantify improvements or deteriorations in energy performance. This requires selecting appropriate statistical techniques to analyze trends, identify correlations, and detect anomalies. The choice of statistical method depends on the data available and the specific energy performance indicators, NPI, being monitored. For instance, regression analysis is often used to model the relationship between energy consumption and variables like production volume. Control charts can be employed to monitor NPIs over time and identify when performance moves outside acceptable statistical limits. The ultimate aim is to ensure that energy performance is continually improved through informed decision-making based on robust data analysis. Question 16. When auditing an organization's energy management system for compliance with ISO 50001-2018, an auditor is reviewing the established energy accounting system. The organization operates a large manufacturing facility with multiple production lines and significant auxiliary energy consumers like HVAC and compressed air systems. The auditor needs to assess the system's capability to accurately track and allocate energy consumption to these specific areas. Which aspect of the energy accounting system's design is most critical for ensuring the accurate identification and analysis of significant energy uses, SU, in this context? Option A. The inclusion of historical energy consumption data from unrelated industries for benchmarking purposes. Option B. The use of a proprietary software solution specifically designed for energy management, regardless of its integration capabilities. Option C. The granularity and precision of sub-metering and data collection points for individual production lines and auxiliary systems. Option D. The frequency of manual data entry and the number of personnel responsible for data validation. Correct answer is C. The granularity and precision of sub-metering and data collection points for individual production lines and auxiliary systems. Explanation. Establishing an energy accounting system is fundamental to ISO 50001-2018, as it provides the structured framework for tracking, measuring, and analyzing energy consumption and performance. Clause 4.2.2, specifically concerning the establishment of an energy review, mandates the identification of energy uses, consumption, and significant energy uses, SU. The energy accounting system serves as the backbone for this review by ensuring that data collected is accurate, consistent, and attributable to specific operational units or processes. This system must define the scope of energy accounting, identify relevant energy types, establish measurement points, and set up data collection and validation procedures. Furthermore, it supports the development of energy performance indicators, NPI, and energy baselines as required by Clause 6.2.2. The system's design should also consider the integration of energy data with other relevant operational data to facilitate a comprehensive understanding of energy drivers. For an auditor, evaluating the energy accounting system involves verifying that it adequately supports the organization's energy policy, objectives, and targets, and that it is robust enough to provide reliable information for continuous improvement of energy performance. The system's ability to accurately allocate energy consumption to specific activities or equipment is crucial for identifying opportunities for improvement and verifying the effectiveness of implemented energy-saving measures. This aligns with the overall goal of demonstrating measurable improvements in energy performance, efficiency, and conservation. Question 17. During an audit of a large manufacturing facility's ISO 50001-2018 compliant energy management system, an auditor observes that a key energy performance indicator, NPI, for compressed air usage has consistently exceeded its projected performance by 15% over the last 2 reporting periods, despite no significant changes in production volume or operational parameters. What is the most critical action for the auditor to take to assess the organization's commitment to continual improvement in this situation? Option A. Focus on auditing other aspects of the NMS, assuming the deviation is an isolated operational anomaly. Option B. Request the organization to immediately revise the NPI baseline to reflect the current higher energy consumption. Option C. Review the organization's documented investigation into the root cause of the NPI deviation and the implemented corrective actions to address it. Option D. Advise the organization to conduct a new energy review as per Clause 4.2 of the standard. The correct answer is C. Review the organization's documented investigation into the root cause of the NPI deviation and the implemented corrective actions to address it. Explanation. The core of continual improvement in ISO 50001/2018 hinges on the Plan-Do-Check Act (PDCA) cycle and the systematic evaluation of energy performance indicators (NPI) against established baselines and objectives. Clause 6.2. Energy objectives and planning to achieve them mandates the establishment of energy objectives that are measurable, monitored, communicated, and updated. Furthermore, Clause 9.1. Monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation requires the organization to monitor, measure, and analyze its energy performance and the effectiveness of its energy management system, NMS. When an NPI shows a significant deviation from its baseline or projected performance, an auditor must verify that the organization has investigated the root cause of this deviation. This investigation should lead to corrective actions aimed at addressing the nonconformity and preventing recurrence. The effectiveness of these corrective actions must then be evaluated. Therefore, the most appropriate auditor action is to examine the documented investigation into the performance deviation and the subsequent implementation and verification of corrective actions. This directly addresses the requirement for continual improvement by ensuring that identified performance issues are systematically resolved and contribute to enhanced energy performance over time. Question 18. An auditor is reviewing the energy review process of a manufacturing company that operates within the European Union. The company has identified its significant energy uses, SU, based on historical energy consumption data and operational impact assessments. However, the documented energy review process does not explicitly reference or detail how the requirements of the EU's Energy Efficiency Directive, ED, specifically Article 8 concerning energy audits for large enterprises, were considered in the identification and prioritization of these SEUs. Despite this omission in the documentation, the company's identified SEUs align with the types of energy-consuming equipment and processes typically mandated for detailed assessment in EED-compliant energy audits. What is the most appropriate course of action for the auditor regarding the SEU identification in relation to the EED? Option A. Issue a nonconformity for failing to explicitly document the consideration of the EED in the energy review, as ISO 50001/2018 requires all relevant external factors to be documented. Option B. Request the organization to conduct a full EED-compliant energy audit immediately to ensure their SEU identification is valid. Option C. Verify that the identified SEUs are consistent with the types of energy uses that will be subject to detailed examination under the EED, and inquire about the organization's awareness of and approach to relevant energy regulations in their SEU identification process. Option D. Accept the SEU identification as adequate because the identified uses are logical for the industry, and the EED is an external regulation not directly mandated by ISO 50001/2018 for NMS implementation. The correct answer is C. Verify that the identified SEUs are consistent with the types of energy uses that will be subject to detailed examination under the EED, and inquire about the organization's awareness of and approach to relevant energy regulations in their SEU identification process. Explanation. The core of an energy management system, NMS, under ISO 50001/2018 is the continual improvement of energy performance. This involves establishing an energy review, which includes identifying significant energy uses, SEU. When auditing an organization's NMS, an auditor must verify that the SEU identification process is robust and considers relevant external factors. The European Union's Energy Efficiency Directive, EED, particularly Article 8 concerning energy audits for large enterprises, mandates specific requirements for energy audits, including the identification and assessment of SEUs, while ISO 50001 2018 does not explicitly mandate compliance with specific national or regional energy regulations. An effective energy review, as required by the standard, should inherently incorporate significant regulatory drivers and requirements that impact energy consumption and performance. Therefore, an auditor assessing the identification of SEUs would need to confirm that the organization has considered how regulations like the EED influence its energy landscape, even if the EED itself isn't directly cited as a requirement within the NMS documentation. The auditor's focus is on the process of identifying SEUs and ensuring it's comprehensive, which naturally includes regulatory impacts. The question tests the auditor's understanding of how external regulatory frameworks inform the internal NMS processes, specifically the energy review and SEU identification. The absence of explicit reference to the EED in the organization's internal documentation does not preclude its influence on the SEU identification process. The auditor's role is to ensure the NMS is effective in managing energy performance, which includes acknowledging and integrating relevant external factors. Question 19. When auditing an organization's adherence to ISO 50001-2018, specifically concerning the management of legal and regulatory requirements as stipulated in Clause 4. 2. What is the primary focus for an auditor to establish conformity? Option A. The organization's historical record of penalties or fines for non-compliance with environmental and energy legislation. Option B. The number of energy-saving initiatives implemented that are directly mandated by specific government regulations. Option C. The organization's participation in industry forums and lobbying efforts to influence future energy-related legislation. Option D. The existence of a comprehensive and regularly updated register of all applicable legal and regulatory requirements related to energy, and evidence that this register is accessible and utilized by relevant personnel within the organization. The correct answer is D. The existence of a comprehensive and regularly updated register of all applicable legal and regulatory requirements related to energy, and evidence that this register is accessible and utilized by relevant personnel within the organization. Explanation. The core of auditing legal and regulatory compliance within an ISO 50001-2018 energy management system, NMS, lies in establishing a systematic process for identification, access, and adherence. Clause 4. 2 of ISO 50001-2018 mandates that the organization shall determine the legal requirements and other requirements that are applicable to its energy use, consumption, and efficiency. This includes identifying relevant national, regional, and local laws, as well as any voluntary commitments or industry standards. For an auditor, verifying this compliance involves assessing the organization's documented procedures for identifying these requirements, ensuring they are readily accessible to relevant personnel, and confirming that the NMS incorporates mechanisms to monitor and ensure ongoing conformity. This is not merely about having a list, but about the active management of these obligations. An effective approach would involve reviewing the organization's process for staying updated on changes in legislation, as well as how these changes are integrated into their energy management practices and operational controls. The auditor would look for evidence of this systematic approach, such as a legal register, internal audits focusing on legal compliance, and records of corrective actions taken when non-compliance is identified. The absence of a robust process for identifying, accessing, and monitoring legal and other requirements would represent a significant nonconformity against Clause 4. 2. Question 20. During an audit of a manufacturing facility that recently implemented a new automated production line, significantly altering its operational profile and energy consumption patterns, the auditor observes that the organization has continued to use its original energy baseline, established 2 years prior. What is the primary implication for the NMS's compliance with ISO 50001-2018, considering the changes? Option A. The organization's energy performance indicators may be inaccurate, potentially masking or overstating improvements due to the outdated baseline. Option B. The energy review process has been bypassed, indicating a systemic failure in the NMS's operational control procedures. Option C. The energy policy is likely insufficient to address the new operational context and requires immediate revision. Option D. The organization has failed to establish adequate energy performance indicators, NPI, for the new production line. The correct answer is A. The organization's energy performance indicators may be inaccurate, potentially masking or overstating improvements due to the outdated baseline. Explanation. The fundamental principle of an energy management system, NMS, under ISO 50001-2018 is the continuous improvement of energy performance. This involves establishing an energy policy, setting objectives and targets, and implementing a plan to achieve them. A critical aspect of this process is the establishment of a baseline, which serves as a reference point for measuring improvements. The baseline is established using energy data from a specific period, and it is essential that this baseline is representative of the organization's normal operations. When an organization undergoes significant changes that affect its energy consumption patterns, such as a major process upgrade or a substantial change in production volume, the existing baseline may no longer accurately reflect current conditions. In such scenarios, ISO 50001-2018 requires the organization to review, and if necessary, re-establish the baseline to ensure that subsequent energy performance evaluations are valid and meaningful. This re-establishment is not merely a data update, but a re-evaluation of the reference point against which progress is measured, ensuring the integrity of the NMS and the accuracy of performance indicators. The standard emphasizes that the baseline should be documented and reviewed periodically, and particularly when significant changes occur that could impact energy performance. This ensures that the organization's energy performance is assessed against a relevant and accurate benchmark. Question 21. When auditing an organization's ISO 50001-2018 energy management system, an auditor observes that the organization has a comprehensive list of identified energy-related risks and opportunities. However, the auditor also notes that these items are documented in a separate register and appear to have minimal direct influence on the day-to-day operational energy management activities or the strategic energy planning. Considering the requirements of ISO 50001-2018, what is the most critical aspect for the auditor to verify regarding the organization's actions to address risks and opportunities? Option A. The number of risks and opportunities identified and documented in the organization's formal risk register. Option B. The frequency with which the risk and opportunity register is reviewed and updated by the energy management team. Option C. The presence of specific, measurable targets for mitigating each identified risk and capitalizing on each opportunity. Option D. The extent to which the identified risks and opportunities are integrated into the planning and implementation of energy management processes and operational controls. Correct answer is D. The extent to which the identified risks and opportunities are integrated into the planning and implementation of energy management processes and operational controls. Explanation. The core of addressing risks and opportunities within an ISO 50001-2018 energy management system, NMS, lies in integrating these considerations into the planning and operational processes. Clause 6. 1. Actions to address risks and opportunities. Mandates that the organization determines the risks and opportunities related to its energy performance, energy use, and its NMS so that the NMS can achieve its intended outcomes and prevent undesirable effects. This involves identifying potential threats, risks, that could negatively impact energy performance or the NMS, and potential benefits, opportunities, that could enhance energy performance or the NMS. The standard requires that these risks and opportunities are addressed by planning actions to A. Integrate and implement these actions into the NMS processes, and B. Evaluate the effectiveness of these actions. The focus is on proactive management rather than simply reacting to issues. For instance, a risk might be the fluctuating price of a primary energy source, which could be addressed by diversifying energy procurement or improving energy efficiency to reduce overall consumption. An opportunity could be the availability of government incentives for renewable energy adoption, which could be addressed by developing a business case for solar panel installation. The effectiveness of these actions is crucial for demonstrating continual improvement. Therefore, the most effective approach for an auditor to assess the robustness of an organization's risk and opportunity management is to examine how these identified factors are woven into the fabric of the NMS's operational and strategic decision-making, rather than just existing as a standalone list. This integration ensures that energy performance improvement is systematically pursued and that potential disruptions are mitigated. Question 22. An auditor is developing the audit plan for a large industrial facility that manufactures complex machinery. The facility has multiple production lines, each with varying energy consumption patterns and regulatory compliance requirements. One production line, Line C, is known to be the most energy-intensive and is subject to recent amendments in local environmental legislation concerning process emissions, which are directly linked to energy consumption. Previous internal audits identified some inconsistencies in data collection for Line C's energy usage. Considering these factors, which approach best guides the auditor's resource allocation and focus during the planning phase? Option A. Concentrate the audit effort primarily on the production lines that have demonstrated the least amount of energy improvement in the last reporting period, irrespective of their overall energy consumption. Option B. Focus exclusively on the production lines with the most recently updated operational procedures, assuming these are the most critical for energy management. Option C. Prioritize areas with the highest energy intensity and significant regulatory implications, while also considering previous internal audit findings regarding data accuracy for those specific areas. Option D. Allocate audit resources equally across all production lines to ensure comprehensive coverage, regardless of individual energy consumption or regulatory status. The correct answer is C. Prioritize areas with the highest energy intensity and significant regulatory implications, while also considering previous internal audit findings regarding data accuracy for those specific areas. Explanation. When planning an audit for an energy management system, NMS, according to ISO 50001-2018, an auditor must consider the organization's operational context and the specific energy-related aspects that are significant. This involves understanding the organization's business, its energy performance indicators, NPI, energy baselines, and any relevant legal or other requirements pertaining to energy use, consumption, and efficiency. The audit plan should therefore prioritize areas with the highest energy consumption, the greatest potential for improvement, or those subject to stringent regulatory oversight. For instance, if an organization operates heavy manufacturing processes that are highly energy-intensive and also fall under specific emissions regulations, the audit plan should allocate sufficient time and resources to thoroughly examine the NMS controls and performance data related to these processes. The auditor must also consider the maturity of the NMS, previous audit findings, and the organization's stated energy objectives and targets when determining the scope and focus of the audit. The goal is to ensure the audit is effective in verifying the conformity of the NMS with ISO 50001-2018 and in identifying opportunities for improving energy performance. Question 23. During an audit of a manufacturing facility operating under ISO 50001-2018, an auditor observes that the facility has recently implemented a new automated production line that significantly increases overall output by 30% and alters the energy consumption pattern for key processes. The facility has continued to use its original energy baseline, established 2 years prior, to calculate its primary energy performance indicator, NPI, for production efficiency. What is the most critical action the auditor should recommend regarding the facility's energy performance evaluation in light of this operational change? Option A. Reevaluate and potentially revise the energy baseline to accurately reflect the new operational conditions and ensure the continued validity of the NPI. Option B. Focus the energy performance evaluation solely on the new production line's energy consumption, disregarding the original baseline entirely. Option C. Recommend a review of the energy management system's scope to exclude the new production line if it deviates significantly from previous operational parameters. Option D. Continue using the existing baseline, but adjust the NPI calculation methodology to account for the increased production volume. The correct answer is A. Reevaluate and potentially revise the energy baseline to accurately reflect the new operational conditions and ensure the continued validity of the NPI. Explanation. The core of ISO 50001-2018, particularly in the context of performance evaluation, revolves around establishing and monitoring energy performance indicators, NPI, and the associated energy baselines. Clause 6. 2. Energy planning. And Clause 7. 8. Monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation are critical. NPIs are quantitative measures of energy performance that an organization uses to manage and improve its energy performance. An energy baseline is a reference point against which energy performance can be assessed. When significant changes occur in operational factors that influence energy performance, such as a major change in production volume or the introduction of new energy-consuming equipment, the established energy baseline may no longer accurately reflect the relationship between energy consumption and the influencing factors. Clause 7. 8. 2. 1 states that, when the validity of previous monitoring and measurement is in question, the organization shall re-establish the required monitoring and measurement, and re-evaluate previous energy performance and energy use. This implies that if the underlying assumptions or conditions for the baseline have materially changed, the baseline itself needs to be reviewed and potentially revised to ensure that the NPIs remain valid and meaningful for evaluating energy performance improvements. Therefore, a significant change in a key operational factor that directly impacts energy consumption necessitates a re-evaluation of the energy baseline to maintain the integrity of the NPIs. This ensures that any observed changes in energy consumption can be accurately attributed to energy management efforts rather than to the altered operational context. Question 24. During an audit of a large manufacturing facility's energy management system, an auditor reviews the documented information related to operational controls for a critical energy-consuming process. The facility has implemented a system where all process parameters are logged digitally, with backups stored on a separate server. However, documented procedure for retaining these operational logs specifies a retention period of only 6 months, while the facility's internal quality management system requires a 2-year retention for all production-related data. Which aspect of documented information control, as per ISO 50001-2018, is most likely to be nonconforming? Option A. Insufficient identification and formatting of digital operational data, leading to potential misinterpretation by personnel. Option B. Lack of a documented review and approval process for the digital logging system itself rather than the data it produces. Option C. Incomplete accessibility of the backup server, hindering the retrieval of historical operational data for analysis. Option D. Inadequate retention period for operational control records, potentially compromising evidence of conformity and performance monitoring over time. The correct answer is D. Inadequate retention period for operational control records, potentially compromising evidence of conformity and performance monitoring over time. Explanation: ISO 50001-2018 Clause 7. 5. Documented information outlines the requirements for an energy management system's documented information. This includes creating, updating, and controlling all necessary documentation. The standard emphasizes that documented information required by the standard, and that which the organization determines to be necessary for the effectiveness of the energy management system, shall be maintained and retained. Maintaining documented information involves aspects like identification, format, media, review, and approval. Retaining documented information refers to keeping records to provide evidence of conformity. An auditor must verify that the organization has established processes to ensure the availability, accessibility, and usability of documented information, as well as its protection from loss, damage, or degradation. This includes verifying that appropriate retention periods are defined and adhered to for records that demonstrate conformity to the standard and the performance of the energy management system. The key is to ensure the integrity and availability of information that supports the ongoing operation and improvement of the energy management system. Question 25. An auditor is reviewing an organization's energy management system, specifically focusing on the implementation of operational controls to improve energy performance. The organization has identified boiler efficiency as a significant energy use and has implemented a new control strategy that adjusts boiler firing rates based on real-time steam demand and ambient atmospheric conditions. The auditor observes that the organization has established an energy performance indicator, NPI, for fuel consumption per unit of steam produced, and has collected data both before and after the implementation of the new control strategy. Which of the following outcomes, based solely on the data and the implemented control strategy, would most conclusively demonstrate an improvement in energy performance according to ISO 50001, 2018? Option A, a statistically significant reduction in the fuel consumed per unit of steam produced when comparing periods with similar operational loads and ambient conditions, directly attributable to the adjusted firing rates. Option B, a general decrease in the organization's overall energy expenditure, irrespective of production levels or external environmental factors. Option C, an increase in the total steam output achieved by the boiler system, even if the fuel consumption per unit of steam remained constant. Option D, a documented plan to investigate potential energy-saving measures for the boiler system in the next planning cycle. The correct answer is A, a statistically significant reduction in the fuel consumed per unit of steam produced when comparing periods with similar operational loads and ambient conditions, directly attributable to the adjusted firing rates. Explanation: the core principle of energy performance improvement within ISO 50001-2018 is the systematic enhancement of energy efficiency, energy conservation, and energy savings. This involves a continuous cycle of planning, implementing, checking, and acting on energy-related activities. An energy review, as mandated by the standard, identifies significant energy uses, SU, and opportunities for improvement. When an organization implements operational controls, such as optimizing boiler firing rates based on steam demand and ambient temperature, it directly addresses an SEU. The effectiveness of these controls is then measured against established baselines and energy performance indicators, NPI. If the implemented controls lead to a reduction in fuel consumption per unit of steam produced, this demonstrates a tangible improvement in energy performance. For instance, if a baseline showed a specific fuel input for a given steam output, and the new operational control reduces this input for the same output, then energy performance has improved. This improvement is not merely a result of increased production or a change in weather, but a direct consequence of the implemented operational strategy. The standard requires the organization to monitor and measure these improvements to verify their effectiveness and inform future actions. This iterative process ensures that energy management is integrated into the organization's operations and drives ongoing progress. Question 26. During an audit of a manufacturing facility's ISO 50001, 2018 energy management system, an auditor reviews the data collection and analysis procedures for identifying significant energy uses, SEU. The facility has implemented a system to record electricity consumption for various production lines and ancillary services. However, the auditor notes that the analysis focuses solely on comparing monthly total consumption figures without correlating them to production output or external variables like ambient temperature. Which aspect of data collection and analysis is most critically underdeveloped, hindering the accurate assessment of energy performance and the effectiveness of energy-saving initiatives? Option A, the failure to collect data on all potential energy sources, including renewable energy generation on site. Option B, the over-reliance on historical data without incorporating real-time energy monitoring capabilities. Option C, the lack of detailed documentation for the calibration of energy metering equipment used for data collection. Option D, the absence of a systematic approach to analyze energy data in relation to relevant variables that influence energy consumption. Correct answer is D, the absence of a systematic approach to analyze energy data in relation to relevant variables that influence energy consumption. Explanation: the core of effective energy performance monitoring and measurement within an ISO 50001-2018 framework lies in establishing robust data collection and analysis processes that support the identification of significant energy uses (SEU) and the evaluation of energy performance indicators (NPI). Clause 6.4.3 Monitoring, measurement, and analysis mandates that an organization shall analyze energy data to ensure the reliable determination of energy performance. This analysis should enable the identification of trends, the evaluation of the effectiveness of implemented energy-saving measures, and the detection of deviations from expected performance. While collecting raw data is a prerequisite, the true value is unlocked through structured analysis that allows for informed decision-making. This involves comparing current performance against baseline periods, identifying correlations between energy consumption and influencing factors, e.g., production volume, weather conditions, and assessing the impact of operational changes. The ability to distinguish between normal variations and actual performance improvements or degradations is crucial for an auditor to verify the organization's understanding and control over its energy consumption. Therefore, the most critical aspect for an auditor to assess is not merely the existence of data, but the systematic and insightful interpretation of that data to drive continuous improvement in energy performance. This systematic approach ensures that the energy management system is actively contributing to the organization's energy objectives and targets. Question 27. During an audit of an industrial manufacturing facility's ISO 50001-2018 compliant energy management system, the auditor is reviewing the organization's process for identifying and addressing the needs and expectations of relevant interested parties. The facility has recently experienced increased scrutiny from local environmental agencies regarding its greenhouse gas emissions, a factor not initially prioritized in their NMS planning. Which of the following auditor findings would indicate the most significant potential gap in the organization's adherence to Clause 4.2 of ISO 50001-2018 concerning interested parties? Option A. The organization's energy management team has a list of potential interested parties, but there is no evidence that these parties or their specific energy-related needs and expectations have been communicated to top management for strategic integration. Option B. The organization has established communication channels with its energy suppliers to discuss energy efficiency improvements, but it has not formally documented the specific energy-related expectations of these suppliers. Option C. The organization has identified key stakeholders such as employees and customers, and their general feedback on energy usage is collected through suggestion boxes, but there is no formal mechanism to assess their specific energy-related expectations. Option D. The organization has a documented procedure for identifying interested parties and their energy-related requirements, but the procedure does not explicitly detail how to incorporate evolving regulatory changes into the NMS objectives. Correct answer is D. The organization has a documented procedure for identifying interested parties and their energy-related requirements, but the procedure does not explicitly detail how to incorporate evolving regulatory changes into the NMS objectives. Explanation. The core of understanding interested parties' needs and expectations within ISO 50001-2018 lies in recognizing that the standard requires the organization to determine which interested parties are relevant to its energy management system and what their requirements are. This is not a static process but an ongoing one that informs the development, implementation, maintenance, and improvement of the energy management system, NMS. An auditor must assess whether the organization has a systematic approach to identifying these parties and their requirements, and how these requirements are considered in the NMS. For instance, regulatory bodies have requirements related to energy reporting and efficiency mandates, which are crucial for compliance. Investors might be interested in the financial benefits of energy savings and the company's commitment to sustainability. Employees may have expectations regarding a comfortable working environment and participation in energy-saving initiatives. Suppliers might have expectations related to energy-efficient equipment procurement. The organization must then translate these identified needs and expectations into actionable objectives and targets for its NMS. Failure to adequately identify or consider a significant interested party's requirement, such as a new government regulation on carbon emissions impacting energy sources, would represent a nonconformity because it means the NMS is not effectively addressing all relevant external factors that could influence its performance or compliance. Therefore, the most comprehensive approach for an auditor to verify this aspect is to examine the documented process for identifying interested parties and their requirements, and then cross-reference this with evidence of how these identified requirements have been integrated into the NMS's planning and operational controls. This includes reviewing meeting minutes, internal communications, risk assessments, and strategic planning documents where these needs would be discussed and acted upon. Question 28. An auditor is reviewing the documented information for a large manufacturing facility's energy management system, NMS, that aims to comply with ISO 50001-2018. The documentation outlines the process for identifying significant energy uses, SU, and establishing energy performance indicators, NPI. However, the auditor notices that the documented procedures for periodically reviewing and updating the list of SEUs and their corresponding NPIs are vague and lack specific timeframes or triggers for revision. Furthermore, the documented energy review, a critical input for establishing objectives and targets, appears to be a one-time exercise rather than an ongoing process integrated with operational changes. Which aspect of the documented information requires the most significant attention from the auditor to ensure compliance with the standard's intent for continual improvement? Option A. The existence of a documented procedure for the internal audit of the energy management system and the competence of the internal auditors. Option B. The documented procedures for the periodic review and updating of significant energy uses and energy performance indicators, and the integration of the energy review into an ongoing process. Option C. The extent to which the documented information specifies the management review process, including its frequency and inputs. Option D. The clarity and comprehensiveness of the documented energy policy and its communication to all levels of the organization. The correct answer is B. The documented procedures for the periodic review and updating of significant energy uses and energy performance indicators, and the integration of the energy review into an ongoing process. Explanation: when auditing an organization's energy management system, NMS, documentation against ISO 50001-2018, an auditor must verify that the documented information is appropriate for the organization's context and scope. This includes ensuring that the documentation clearly defines the energy review, establishes energy baselines and performance indicators, NPI, and outlines the energy objectives and targets. Clause 4.2. Context of the organization requires understanding the organization's energy-related issues and the needs and expectations of interested parties. Clause 6.1. Actions to address risks and opportunities mandates the establishment of processes for managing energy performance. The documented information should demonstrate how the organization has identified significant energy uses, SU, how these are monitored and measured, and how improvements are integrated into the energy management system. The auditor's review should confirm that the documentation is sufficient to guide the implementation and operation of the NMS and to facilitate continual improvement of energy performance. Specifically, the documentation must reflect the organization's commitment to providing resources for achieving its energy objectives and targets, as stated in Clause 5. 1. Leadership and commitment. The scope of the NMS, as defined in the documented information, must be clearly articulated and aligned with the organization's operational boundaries and significant energy uses. Question 29. During an audit of a manufacturing facility's energy management system, an auditor discovers that while the organization monitors energy consumption across various departments, there is no documented procedure or defined criteria for determining which energy uses are considered significant, according to ISO 50001-2018. The facility operates multiple production lines, each with varying energy demands and operational schedules. Which aspect of the monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation requirements of ISO 50001-2018 is most critically not being met? Option A. The failure to establish specific energy performance indicators for all monitored energy uses. Option B. The lack of real-time data collection for all energy-consuming equipment. Option C. The absence of a systematic methodology for identifying significant energy uses. Option D. The insufficient frequency of energy performance reviews by top management. The correct answer is C. The absence of a systematic methodology for identifying significant energy uses. Explanation: the core of ISO 50001-2018, specifically Clause 6.3, requires an organization to establish, implement, and maintain processes for obtaining and reviewing information related to energy performance. This includes monitoring significant energy uses, which are defined by their substantial energy consumption or potential for significant energy savings. An auditor must verify that the organization has systematically identified these significant energy uses based on a defined methodology. This methodology should consider factors such as the volume of energy consumed, the cost associated with that energy, and the potential for improvement. Without a documented and applied methodology for identifying significant energy uses, the organization's energy management system is incomplete and does not meet the requirements of the standard. Therefore, the auditor's primary concern in this scenario is the absence of a systematic process for this identification, which underpins the subsequent establishment of energy baselines, energy performance indicators, and energy objectives and targets. The identification of significant energy uses is a foundational step that drives the entire energy management system's effectiveness. Question 30. During an audit of a manufacturing facility, an auditor reviews the organization's energy management system documentation and discovers that the established energy baseline for the primary production line has been revised. The revision was made following a substantial increase in the facility's operating hours due to a new export contract. The organization's energy management team has provided documentation detailing the change in operating hours and its impact on energy consumption, along with a revised calculation for the baseline that accounts for this increase. What is the auditor's most appropriate course of action to ensure compliance with ISO 50001/2018 regarding this revised energy baseline? Option A. Verify that the revision of the energy baseline was necessitated by a significant change in factors influencing energy performance and is adequately documented and justified. Option B. Advise the organization to cease all baseline revisions to maintain the integrity of historical energy performance data. Option C. Request the organization to revert to the original energy baseline, as revisions can introduce inconsistencies in performance measurement. Option D. Accept the revised energy baseline without further scrutiny, assuming the organization has followed its internal procedures for updates. The correct answer is A. Verify that the revision of the energy baseline was necessitated by a significant change in factors influencing energy performance and is adequately documented and justified. Explanation: the establishment of an energy baseline is a fundamental requirement of ISO 50001/2018, serving as a reference point for measuring and evaluating energy performance improvements. Clause 6.5.2. Energy baseline mandates that an organization shall establish one or more energy baselines. The primary purpose of an energy baseline is to provide a quantified reference for energy performance. This baseline should reflect the energy used and consumed by the organization for a specific period, taking into account relevant variables that may influence energy consumption. When considering the revision of an energy baseline, an auditor must assess whether the organization has a defined process for this revision, and if the revision is justified by significant changes. Such significant changes could include alterations in production levels, operational hours, the introduction of new energy-consuming equipment, or substantial changes in external conditions like climate or regulatory requirements that materially affect energy consumption patterns. The auditor's role is to verify that any revision is based on sound reasoning and documented evidence, ensuring the baseline remains a valid and reliable indicator of energy performance over time. A baseline that is not updated to reflect significant changes would render the measurement of energy performance improvements inaccurate and potentially misleading. Therefore, the most appropriate action for an auditor when presented with a revised energy baseline is to confirm that the revision was necessitated by a significant change in the factors influencing energy performance, and that this change is adequately documented and justified according to the organization's established procedures and the standards requirements.